New York City, the city of liberty, has a massive problem. A street racing problem. And this is not street racing how we know it from the movies and the early 2000s street racer culture. People are weaving through traffic like they would be on a motorcycle and use other drivers as obstacles for their own enjoyment, putting them in harm's way, getting into police chases on purpose, and all that for social media clout to become New York's most wanted. It's like the real-life version of the 2005 Need for Speed video game, only with real consequences. However, where did this came from and how did it get so big? Let me tell you a story about one guy and his Porsche Cayman 981 and his YouTube channel that is completely immoral, however, has its weirdly beautiful moments in between, and how it started one of the worst trends in car culture to this day. On a cold and lonely night in March 2022, still during the pandemic, I was sitting with my best friend from uni in his BMW M2 in the McDonald's drive-thru, and he was pulling out his phone and showed me a video titled, "I am sorry, officer." The video is filmed by a dashcam and you only see the hood of a car flying through incredibly dense traffic with something in the middle that seems to be a police scanner. Police lights flash in the distance, you think the car is slowing down to stop, but then he floors it and just gets away. And our minds were blown. We've never seen anything like it. We've seen the Ghost Rider videos and also motorcycles evading police, but we've never seen anything with this much risk to the general public. At that time, these videos were so wild that it was sometimes hard to watch them without being completely outraged. However, they are also weirdly intriguing, and they kept getting wilder and wilder. From little police chases to completely flipping the script on the police and giving chase to a state trooper Dodge Charger. Every time I saw a new upload of his, I saw him dare more and more, which made me ask the question, who's the guy behind the wheel? And that is not just because Where 981 hides his identity, it's also because creating a profile of who this guy could be as a person is really difficult. When talking about what they do, Where 981 and the swim team, the group around him, makes it seem like cutting up or swimming through traffic is something they just do when they feel like it. His Porsche seems to be his personal car that he can afford because he's a guy working in finance.
I talk to rich people all day and just help them with their money, man.
However, something is not adding up here.
At the time, I was trading stocks, and I basically made it. I hit it big. I was trading stock options, and I had like roughly $120,000 in my account, and I said, I want to buy a car.
There are over 3 hours of interview material of Where 981 where he always speaks confidently and clearly. When he makes statements about how he got his car through finance, he's repeating himself 3 times, interrupting himself and laughing about his own words, which makes me pretty safe to assume that this is a lie. And he has the same slip up on a different podcast at the same point.
I talk to rich people all day and just help them with their money, man.
Also, his social act and the type of jewelry he wears in this video do not fit a guy working in finance. However, where does the money or the cars for this really expensive activity come from? The line with 981 is a bit blurry as he's using the same cars over and over again. However, them being his and properly registered is highly unlikely. It looks like cutting up for them is not a spontaneous activity, but an attempt at building a business. Where 981 and the swim team drive all over New York, however, they very frequently use the Belt Parkway, the Grand Central Parkway, and the Cross Island Parkway. Taking gaps in the New York camera system and potential garages to rent into consideration, Where 981 most likely operates in between Queens and the JFK International Airport. In a way, Where 981 started the swimming trend, and that made his channel unique in a few ways. Not just the reckless behavior that he was showing was completely unfiltered, also everything around it was too. From graffitis on the walls on the ugly parts of town, to hookers on the street, to just the backdrop of New York, mixed with a guy basically playing Russian roulette with other people's lives. The absolute insane content that Where 981 was posting was getting a lot of attention in 2022 and 2023, basically making him New York's most wanted. However, the copycats came along.
Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces. That to me, you really playing with your life. I'm about to come and run it all back. I'm the new era, about to snap back. You ain't fitting for it cause you all cap like.
It went from one channel to a handful of channels doing this to it becoming its own content niche. Don't get me wrong, Where 981 and the swim team don't care if the people around them live or die in traffic. However, this is somehow worse. As you can already see with this clip from Times Square, drifting where there's a ton of pedestrians on the sidewalk. It went from coasting on a ridiculous pace through traffic to trying to be as fast as possible no matter the cost. This is basically just rage bait content to get the most likes and views possible. The difference between them is that the swim team most likely is in their mid-20s and License and SqueezeBenz are a few years younger and are amplified by having to one-up them on social media. How SqueezeBenz and License get their cars is a lot clearer. They mostly get their cars from rental services. In specific, AA Exotic Premium Car Rentals in Woodside between Queens and Brooklyn. Like, how does the police not pay this place a visit? It has been mentioned on multiple social media posts and was the location for the interview of License by Tommy G. Like, this is definitely assisting and promoting another person's criminal conduct for their own financial gain. A popular talking point when it comes to street racing and cutting up is young male syndrome, describing the fact that young males often get into more risky behavior, but I don't think that gets these people off the hook, because we are all no saints. Everyone has done their sketchy things in traffic. For example, I myself had the combination of a superbike, being 19 years old, and a global pandemic. However, I would have never thought to do anything close to this. This neatly brings me to the next point of that this is caused by racetracks being closed more and more. However, I have to disagree. These people actively seek out traffic. If there wouldn't be cars on the road, they would not be doing this. Because the majority of reckless drivers picks their moments when there's no car in front of them, when they have an empty road, or late at night in an industrial area. They admit themselves that this behavior is deeply wrong, and they also dehumanize the other people in traffic to be themselves okay with doing this, because the potential consequences can be catastrophic. Something needs to change. It's very clear that a police pursuit in these kinds of circumstances and this traffic is basically impossible and cannot be justified. However, there should be a much higher emphasis on investigating who these people are. I mean, they're uploading their own crimes onto the internet and have Discord servers, shops, and all this kind of stuff, leaving traces online. If any one of the people who are cutting up in traffic or even making these videos is watching this, please stop doing this. It's not a question of if this goes wrong, it's a question of when it goes wrong. And if it does, the pain and suffering that this is going to cause is going to be unimaginable. And the feelings of guilt of having taken another person off this planet is going to be almost impossible to live with.